Hey guys, quick disclaimer before we get into this video. A lot of people have seen on social media that I was at Sweetwater recently, actually yesterday, 2 days ago, and they very quickly flew me out there to do some content regarding a certain product that I'm actually not allowed to give any information about. That being said, there is a good Easter egg in my post and in my picture that I was given clearance to post. So keep in mind that this video was filmed prior to that because they basically were like, hey, get you on a plane and be out here right away. So this video I filmed before my Sweetwater trip. All right, so we've got more kind of no news, but kind of interesting stuff going on in the Helix Stadium rumor mill. I wish this thing would come out already. Good news, it seems like it might be coming earlier than December, which can be very exciting. Bad news is nobody actually knows an answer to that. And everybody in the Facebook groups and the forums seem to think that their sales rep has all the best information and they're all giving different information. And nothing has been reliable or consistent in any of the, in any of the speculated dates. But everybody's guy has the inside scoop. That's pretty much all we've learned from browsing the Facebook groups and checking out what people know about their stadium orders. I assume a lot of people are bothering their sales engineers and getting on them about when is their unit going to be ready for them to purchase. Maybe stop doing that. I don't know. It's going to come when it's going to be ready, and that is what it is. We had a video last week or so, or 2 weeks ago, that Line 6 was asking our help about. They were asking our help on whether or not they would want us to have Stadium fully ready for launch. Fully ready meaning having everything that's been promised early on as far as showcase goes. And the reason it might have been delayed is that if we decided, we voted, not by there's no we making any decision, but we were asked, the audience, the community, if we were okay without showcase being implemented at launch, which would mean that it comes earlier. And if we said we wanted showcase fully implemented, that meant that it could potentially be delayed until December or late December after the December 21st fall date. So that was the last actual big news. And now Eric Klein has gone to the Facebook group again to ask us another question. And this time it's pertaining to the rack. A lot of people are asking about a stadium rack. Will the stadium be in a rack version? And I think at this point, the answer to that might be no. From the higher ups, making the decisions and calling the shots. Eric himself made this post on October 7th, and I let this marinate for a week or so to you see there's 124 comments on here. There's a lot of interesting stuff. I'll link to this thread in the comments. And while you're there, make sure you hit the subscribe button if you have not yet, because apparently 80% of my views come from people not subscribed. So let's fix that. Okay. Basically what we're asking here, what Eric is asking, what would make a rack successful, or at least more successful than Helix original rack? So the original Helix rack is the same exact thing as the Helix floor, just in a rack mount format. There's no difference. Whereas you look at the AxeFX line, the AxeFX 3 is rack mount, and the AxeFX 3 does a ton of different things that the FM9 and the FM3 cannot do. So I think that we're more looking at the way that we need to answer this, and you should go answer this and put your input below in the comments, because I know they do sometimes check my videos out. What would the rack need to have to make it more sellable than the Helix rack was? And I thought of some interesting ones, and a bunch of people, this guy, Tim Noonan, has a really good answer here. Good stuff. But what is it that would make a rack more appealing to you than the Helix rack was? So immediately, as a touring musician, I think that the stadium bread and butter is going to be the showcase feature, right? So showcase being that you can receive MIDI and basically start my track, and my track would be all of my changes, my snapshot changes, my bypass assignments all of that within the given time frame. So I can basically set up my stadium to have a track of all of my changes. So that would mean that I can receive MIDI from our drummer and I don't need anything on the floor. So that's just an advantage of a rack mount unit, not necessarily something that's going to make, because I could put my stadium off stage and do the same exact thing. If I got the XL floor, I could put that on the floor anywhere and have it out of sight. So that's one thing that I think, as far as if we're looking to make this a pro touring rig and we really want Showcase to be something that's used and utilized often, I think we get Showcase off the floor and automated in a rack. Some other things that I thought of, just, thinking and coming up with ideas, my submission in the comments section. I think that without question, if there's a rack mount, it's got to be different from the floor. It has to have something bigger and better. Like I said, like the Axe FX3 does. So the rack should have more DSP, and I think maybe a bigger signal chain. Maybe instead of the 4 rows, there are 6 rows. I don't know if that would entail a bunch of different designing of the screen or not, or maybe they make the icons a little bit smaller and they increase the amount of blocks that we can physically fit in a preset with more DSP and more signal flow options. Obviously, that would also mean more memory, more RAM, maybe a bit beefier processor, something that can do a little bit more heavy lifting, more ins and outs. Maybe there's a third and fourth instrument input so that you can actually run an entire band through it using the same inputs and the same technology on the input. I think that would be a really good one. Stereo effects loops. So now that we're picturing rack mount, if you're picturing rack mount, you should be picturing, all sorts of fancy stereo effects like the 80s and all the stuff that they would put in a rack mount. So I think stereo effects loops, more effects loops than are on the Stadium XL floor. And I think that it would be cool to have a two-way communication with a floorboard. So I assume that they're going to come out with a foot controller if they do decide to go with a rack unit. There should be two-way communication where you can make changes either on the unit, on the rack, and on the floorboard and have them communicate to each other so you have knobs and parameters accessible to you on the floor wherever you're at in your stage. And go look through these comments because there's a lot of cool stuff. Like Tim says, more I/O capabilities, routing will be useful, ADAT ins and outs, so it's more studio usable. Yep, needs to offer something unique. I would think it's going to be for you, so it's going to be pretty big as far as rack goes. A couple people saying that they don't want it. So yeah, go check out the thread here. Another thing that might be cool for a rack unit, what if they put in a power amp so that if you're going to have a rack mount behind you, you can also power a cabinet right next to you. I know they just came out with the Power Cab CL so that they do have some nice Class D power amp action. Maybe that's something they could implement into the rack so that while the rack is behind you on stage, it can also power the cabinet next to it. Or there's a lot of touring rigs that have a cabinet with a rack above it and they're all in one flight case. So you could have a cabinet here and then your Helix Stadium rack up here, and it can actually power that cabinet below it. Maybe something with outlets on the front, almost like the Furman power conditioners. Like you have a power conditioner in the rack, it has actual power outlets in the front. What if Stadium had something like that where you can actually plug into the front of it and I don't know, whatever you're going to need to plug in, a charger, Darth Vader lamp or something like that. I'm literally just making stuff up at this point. Let me know what you want to add. What do you think would make the Stadium rack better than the Helix version of the rack was? And yeah, go contribute to the conversation in the Facebook group, contribute to the conversation in the comments below. And just as a reminder, your sales engineer has no idea when Stadium's going to ship. So stop going to the Facebook group saying that you have a ship date. Nobody does until it comes from Eric Klein, Frank Richot, or any of the actual people of Line 6. There's going to be no
date announced, regardless of what your sales engineers are saying. It's worth noting. But yeah, if you made it this far in the video, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.